for having me. I'm doing really good. A big day we chose. It was not by, you can say it's not by accident, but at the same time, we spoke a couple of weeks ago, and last week I was busy doing some other shows, and then I suggested today, and it was not specifically because it's 888. It just happened to work for both of us, and it's like, well, let's do it that day, And I think that's kind of like the theme I kind of want to remind everybody about, is that it is the veil is very thin, so we have access, and so much is shifting, and we're completing, one curriculum, so to speak, and we are waiting eagerly for the next one to be, coming to the surface, or being received, or being accessed, or being, opened up for us, But with all, like today, there's a lot of hype, so it's important, that's what I was guided to share today, is that there's so many workshops out there. There's so many, podcasts like ourselves today. But really the key I feel like to share is that, just relax and take time and be present. There's no train to catch. It's really important that we just utilize this time, this opening, and this activation of our divine soul blueprint and DNA to the best of our ability personally. So yes, if you feel drawn to watch something, great. And if it doesn't trigger you, if it doesn't distract you from being present, then great. Otherwise, watch it later, or kind of like navigate it and allow yourself to take note of what you are experiencing, what you're seeing. I kind of want to share, because jump in, because I feel like it's connected to it. I showered, earlier today, as I do every day, and I was standing watching the water was warming up, and I was watching myself in the mirror, and I was doing affirmations. And today, because of the 888, obviously, and of course my personal work and so forth, I was just connecting with myself differently than I'd done before, I feel, because I saw my light body, and at times it just went like transparent, and it was I could see light on one side, the other side I could see my face shift, ancient aspects of myself coming up, but also like that going in and out. And of course there was a little bit of steam coming in too, so that it became a little more less visible, so that worked together. But point being is that today the veil is very thin, so you can connect internally with yourself in a way you haven't, or we not normally are able to as much, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So connecting with those nuances within yourself, and I really enjoyed that. I really haven't experienced that kind of light body reflection connection personally before. Right. So I felt that was kind of interesting and hopefully good to share.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you've made my day right there, my friend. I'm just wondering, Peter, your camera is a little fuzzy.
It is?
Just so you know. Yeah, just a little fuzzy. Yeah. I don't know if
mine is clean and clear.
Okay.
It could be it's recording and then it looks clear to me, because you also looked not grainy, but tiny bit.
Okay.
So maybe when it's recording, it's combining the two, and it will be perfect. Maybe
Perfect.
I can polish it.
Sure. I'm just being a Virgo, you see.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good, and especially I don't have my glasses on, so I really I don't see as much.
Okay.
In that sense,
All right, bless you. But honestly, thank you for sharing that, because these are the things, when someone like yourself, who is such an experienced mystic, and is able to discern the different dimensions and has such a deep connection to spirit, and bless you, you're in this world along with the rest of us, which I really appreciate on your part, and you can tell us you're seeing these things, and I'm going, okay, that's good. I like that, that's reassuring, yeah. I mean, my bit of grace here, my friend, the last few weeks have been really lovely for me. And I'm doing some music with a friend of mine, and I'm on his magazine. This is Ian Morris, which I'll send you some stuff. And he just he has a project called Listening to Smile, and so I'm involved with that, and that's been wonderful. And then I'm learning about these LifeWave patches for healing, which are quite interesting. They take the light from the body and they send it back in, and it creates stem cells. So people are having really incredible results. So I just received mine today. So I'm just I'm starting on my patches journey, my LifeWave patches journey today. So anyway, that's all happening. But the other bit of grace I want to share spiritually is that my teacher, going back to my awakening in the 80s was Lazarus, and I've studied with them for many years. So I just signed up yesterday onto their streaming service, and they just celebrated 50 years of teaching classes and workshops. So they have 600 titles available for the streaming service. So I've just gifted myself for €40 a month 600 Lazarus titles. So I'm having a very good week at the moment. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful, and it's funny because it ties into something else I was been thinking about earlier. Is that of course as we vibrate and be clear and we complete soul contracts, karmic lessons, so forth. We access higher levels of frequency and bandwidth. You know what I mean? So we become a magnet to new information as well. It's like almost like the old curriculum. And I was receiving this last night in my bedtime meditation before going to bed. And I actually got out of bed a couple of times to write it down because I wanted to share it today. And it speaks directly to this. So that's like quantum mechanics, right? Where the curriculum, the 888 kind of marks the day of the graduation, and the old curriculum, material, there's plenty of it in the collective container at the moment for each individual, regardless of what level we're at. So you completed your curriculum and you're now open and ready for new stuff to come in.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted.
And we all do that because we're shifting in bandwidth, and we activate higher strands of DNA, so we become magnets to something that's more, synchronistic and resonates with that frequency bandwidth. You know what I mean? So new material come in, new experiences, new connections. All of that is like how we navigate the new parts of ourselves. We need to then get to know or get accustomed to. You know what I mean? Connecting deeper with. The light body, like we talked about. So I love that. I love everything you're mentioning. And it's funny because noticing, just from outside perspective, because we do connect, you and I, even though it's been 6 months, daily I see you post and I like your post and you like mine, so forth, so there's energetic, etheric and quantum field connection that we are not separated, you know what I mean? Even though 6 months might go by, you know what I mean? But we are continuously with our soul family. We're working together. We're on a common mission, So that's beautiful to kind of like bring that into this conversation as well.
Thank you.
Back to what I was going to share is that looking at you going backwards, like before your surgery, before you had trouble with your health, you were one vibration, one frequency. After you went through that whole ordeal, and it really was, I mean, I know you didn't flatline, but it was almost like a death. It was a death and a rebirth in so many ways. So now it's very different. It's much more, you can say, childish, not in a human way, playful. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
In a good way, like a spirit. Unhinged kind of way. So there's this excitement, and you're sharing that through your videos, through your music, through your engagement with people, and everybody can feel that, that excitement. I just wanted to kind of reflect upon that because I'm sure you're aware of it, but maybe other people are missing it.
It's lovely to hear. You're very sweet, my friend. It's lovely to hear, Peter. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
It's just a pleasure to watch you, how you're a magnet to all these new things, and how you walk your talk. You know what I mean?
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, bless you. I mean, that's just so dear to me. Thank you. Thank you. As we were saying before we got on here, things are really in the spin cycle, and there's promise of, greater intensity and challenges. So, that we know each other, that we're friends, that we're on the path together, that we, keep each other and follow what the other one is doing. There's this, I'm sure you have this with many people as well, that there's a tribe of, many people now that we can all go, yes, 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 yes. We're on the same team, and we're getting ready for the big game is my metaphor. It's the big game is coming.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We are finishing one book, right, and then a new book, new codes, new records are being, revealed or coming upon us. You know what I mean? And that's, we go through these phases, light body activation phases, and many of us are in a very similar path. So then we doing it as a group setting. You know what I mean? What's important? I was being asked this from a client the other day. What would happen when I upgrade? Would I disappear? You know what I mean? Because there was a genuine, fear of that, I think, and I asked Gabriel to assist with, and my higher self to assist with the answer. What was coming through, was of course in the quantum field, in whoever we mentor or take under our wings, a part of me would always be there. So I would be in multiple realities at the same time. I personally would maybe reside more in multiple realities in that sense, you know what I mean? Dimensions.
Yes.
But that wouldn't mean that I would leave, because I do feel a responsibility towards my clients, you know what I mean? So a loving responsibility, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's the soul group. It's like, I got you kind of energy, you know what I mean? And I think that's helpful to kind of maybe share here too, because I know there was a genuine question there, like we're not leaving anyone behind in that sense, you know what I mean? If they're on the journey and we are partaking and, you know what I mean, and we are assisting them in some way, shape or form, then we will continue to, but that's how we transform, but then also they transform, you know what I mean?
Yes, beautiful. I hear you. That's a wonderful, brilliant answer. Yeah, I mean, the more conscious we become, the more aware we're not just this physical, focus, and that, spirit has our backs and is watching us, and love is eternal. So as we love each other, a friend of mine just had his partner pass away, and Susie, this is Declan and Susie who I'm thinking of, and Declan was inviting me to the service, and I said I have a commitment. This being the commitment, and he was very understanding because he's on the path as well. He's I'll put the two of you together at some point. He's a lovely, lovely soul. And he also, in his early 20s, had his near-death experience. And then he was prayed over, and he came back into his body. And I think a couple months later, he was climbing the Himalayas, after being at death's door. Yeah. So, I mean, all of us know that there really aren't any limits, but depending on our faith, there are limits, except when our faith can show us how to transcend them. And, as we're saying, it's accelerating towards, a big, parting of the ways. I don't want to embrace division, but, there has to be some level of, people confronting what they've been living in denial of. We all have to do that. You and I do it every day, because we know this is the illusion here. What am I denying? What am I not seeing? What am I not responding to? Can I face that and heal that and overcome that? And so anything you want to say about, the collective energies of both awakening and people, staying asleep, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, first thing is popping up, and I can bring Gabriel in on that for that as well, is from the third and fourth dimensional perspective. I'm just going to answer this one first. It's like we're operating from duality, right? So and separation. So like we're leaving something behind, and that is a true statement, for the third and the fourth dimension. As you're connecting to the fifth dimensional and higher selves, you're actually able to be in multiple dimensions at the same time without being off it. You know what I mean? You can still observe, you can still assist without being affected by it the same way.
Right.
You are not able to have that same experience when you're in the third dimension, let's say, about the higher, you know, on a continual basis. So that's how everything is shifting, you know what I mean? So the perception is shifting too, the reality is shifting, the possibilities are shifting, you know, as we are ascending and awakening more and more to those aspects. So I think that's helpful, because then we are not, it's not so dualistic, you know, it's not so triggering, because there's not that fear of leaving somebody behind. You know, yes, we are leaving consciousnesses behind, and frequencies behind, and versions of reality behind that's not in alignment, or we completed that karmic lesson, or, you know, whatever that was, you know what I mean? Or some contract. So then we don't need to repeat that any longer, because we passed, you know, we graduated. So then we move to the next one. And that's when we get that broader perspective, and, you know, our whole body, our light body activates in ways that we then can feel and navigate a multidimensional experience so much more.
Right.
So that's kind of when I want to chime in there. But if you want to bring Gabriel in, we can also ask questions there. If
Sure, of course. I'm happy to have that. Absolutely.
I'm just going to ask you first, do you have your permission to energy meld to connect with your higher self?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring in the Legion of Angels. I'm asking them to remove any wandering spirits, anything that's not of the light, from your energy field, from your home, city, state, country. This call from all timelines, all parallel realities, and all dimensions, just clearing the space and slowly energy melting with you and connecting with your higher self. Bringing in the Archangel. Do you want to ask the question, or a question? It doesn't have to be the exact same.
Thank you. Thank you, Archangel Gabriel. Thank you. Yes, whatever you would like to share with us about being of loving service as a light worker over the next few months and years, in terms of helping people to awaken.
Okay. Absolutely. So it's a very general, of course, question. It can, though, and it would benefit the most to kind of like personalize it, the answer for oneself, because it is speaking directly to the recipient. You know what I mean? So
do that.
That's
please.
the key here, is there is a collective humanity, you know, we've been a part of, you know, that was much more affected by outside sources, you know, and controlled by, there was trends going, and oblivion, you know, a lot of times navigation through that is in the process of shifting now. Of course, you know, there's more and more, there's not just a trend, there's a mass awakening happening, and we reached the critical mass already. So that is why we have a junction point like today with the 888, which where like the curriculum is kind of like expired, or it's like it met its completion, so to speak, where whoever, I mean, individually everybody's at their own level, you know, but really it's like there's room and space for new material to come in. So this is a turning point. Not just, I mean, and obviously it's not in a linear sense. Of course, if we come straight from the linear, you know, we will still translate it and look at through the rails or the filters of the time-based reality. So that is also part of what's happening right now. The more of the quantum field will be apparent everywhere. So meaning that time and electronics, you know, is also, that's a good way of kind of seeing, you know, and experiencing these hiccups, you know, because when we are in a multidimensional reality and we jump timelines and different realities and we interact with people who are also doing that, then there will be times where you might know that they were doing this today, and you ask them about it and say, well, I didn't do that today. So then the logical mind will then jump in and like, why, you know, the human mind would jump in and think, well, why are you lying? I mean, without saying those words, you know, what's going on? So now there's a new point of view becoming accessible, is that then asking the person, you know, where did you go? What did you do then? Because they most likely were in a different reality, in a different timeline.
Right.
So that also allows for that multidimensional communication to be fostered and to be nurtured and accessed, not in essence taking everything with a grain of salt, if that makes sense, because there will be a lot of that confusion going on, where the human mind, the human consciousness will be triggered by it because it can't make sense of it. It can't navigate it because it's not used to it. So that's what we're coming into now. It won't be a shitstorm necessarily. It's going to be a little confusing, but it will be in a way that's created to prove a point. So yes, there will be a little emotions coming up momentarily, but then there will be a nurturing presence available that will show alternate realities. So that engagement or that realization within the individual will then be nurtured and reached. That will connect neurons, connect the DNA, connect the possibilities of what's available, and shift and change the belief system. So that's kind of like what we're in the process of actually it will get enhanced, or it will accelerate and exponentially grow stronger after the Lion's Gate. So right now we have a big reset, kind of like a roll call a little bit, because everybody's at their own level, right? So we all reach the point where we kind of have to just sit back and relax and be present, receive the honors. We all rock stars in that sense. So there's no hierarchy. We're all exactly where we're supposed to be. So we kind of have to like allow ourselves to be seated in that a little bit, So that's important, that, kind of recognizing that we're not behind. We didn't miss the train, any of that. You know what I mean? It's like we are exactly where we are supposed to be. And we did complete a big phase now. And the new information, the new codes, the new records, they are coming to us in divine timing. So then not searching so desperately or feeding any of that kind of energy, that's linear energy, is important to stay present, stay expanded, stay loving, mostly towards yourself, because that will be then reflecting out, you know what I mean? So then it's not a race. It's like simply just enjoying the moments and allowing the higher self to navigate and communicate through you, you know what I mean? And especially if the record is kind of clean, then that can be challenging for some, because we're so used to having that agenda or having that to-do list, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like hooked up before we start filling up the backpack with books again, for the next part of the journey.
Sure. Very, very good. So, you're saying that, we've finished energetically, a huge phase of our spiritual growth. And so it's going to be easier for us to know and be in touch with our own inner guidance, and to be more trusting and receptive and available to that, if I understand all that. So my question is just in terms of other people who don't yet know that there is a loving higher power and are dealing with chaos and confusion and violence and the darker energies, just how to hold the space for healing in terms of the what's unfolding on the planet right now.
Okay. Well, mentioned earlier too, is like everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. So everybody receiving this guidance today, it's true for them, regardless what they're going through and what they're experiencing. Okay. If they are exposed to a lot of this AI or media hype, in that vibrational, dimensional frequency, bandwidth, and reality, then there is also a reason for that. So there's a breaking point happening there as well, because parts of them are awakening, so they will become observers, observing it from a higher perspective or multiple perspective point of view. And it might seem, because we're so used to things being another way, a different way in the past, where it was very dualistic, either 3D or 5D, right? It was like very like either asleep or awake, you know what I mean? But
yes,
everybody in these timelines right now, in this reality, who chose to be here and in this part of this new age ascension, are to some extent, a part of them are awakened enough to benefit from being in that state.
Okay.
Even though
Okay.
they might be very reactive, but then they will, in their own rights, connect the dots and also exhaust themselves, because being in that bandwidth is very exhausting. So it will force them to their knees, in a sense, you know what I mean? Like in a 4x4, not necessarily, sickness or illness, more of a just life force energy will be drained, because it's like it's just allowing it to run into the ethers, into nowhere for no apparent reason. So then, because of that exposure is so strong, then people will they can only be in it for so long, then they have to step out, and that stepping in and stepping out is assisting them with recalibrating. So then there will be a recognition that it is an outside energy that's very strong and very loud, but the inner environment, the inner light body, awareness and so forth, is really the key here. And people will be much more conscious of that, and kind of not being so worried about the outside. It's not about being ignorant. It's not about being, spiritual bypassing anything. It's more of you're not going to be able to be a part of the shift on the outside unless you change the inside. It's going to be that kind of realization happening. So by shifting the vibration and being in a different frequency, then new versions of reality becomes accessible. So how we navigate that and what we chose individually, each soul chose individually as a part of the script or the story or the movie script, will be uniquely different. You know what I mean? As a collective, there's a many going through that to clear a lot of that karma, to clear a lot of those soul contracts, to bring up that fear, to face that fear, to step through it, and not be a prisoner of it any longer, because teeter-tottering it, for such a long time is still keeping it alive. But this is a part of that breakthrough where it will simply just crumple. So the movie screens you see outside, I don't have to go into details. We know what we're talking about. It will collapse because it's actually it's in the process of self-sabotaging. It is aware of it, but there's no other way for it to function. So it's aware that it's self-sabotaging, and it's actually its own demise. But still, it doesn't know where else to go. So it's aware of it and it's happening. So we're watching it as it's happening. So the more we can take a step back and then allow that to happen, the more we are actually assisting with that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And taking inventory, but also taking responsibility for our own life. How do we? I mean, this is a big thing with the 888. We hear a lot. It's like it's really important that you don't think bad thoughts or say bad words and so forth. You know what I mean? That's all the time. It's just a little more. What do you call it? Like a little more intensified at the moment. But really all the time. So if we watch our words and the thoughts and our actions and our interactions, so forth, who we interact with and how we feel afterward, that will also assist the whole. So that's what's going on right now on a mass scale. And many are not aware of it, but they will become aware of it. And looking back, it's like, oh my God, that really, really made a difference. You know what I mean? So that's a part of that process, that awakening process, that's actually going to be empowering for everyone moving forward. You know what I mean? So that's
wonderful.
Addressing the more 3D, right, or 3D 4D part of the population that's going through that right now. Because it's not just that; it's like it's a shitstorm. It's like it's all aspects, and it's just off the hinges, and it's on all cylinders. It's trying its hardest, but again, at the same time, it's its own demise.
Yes, beautiful. Well, thank you. I'm seeing more and more younger people, really, especially women, really step into their power, and really enlightened young teachers with a lot of wisdom. And I'm seeing, more community coming together in new ways. And just definitely feeling, these last few weeks, the power of love and light for me personally has become more accessible and available. So I'm knowing and seeing that, the light is returning to our lives and to the earth, and that we're more open and receptive to it. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, Peter's going to come in here now, and it's like that's a direct reflection of, because you are in a more relaxed state, and you are in essence loving yourself harder, and you're owning it, because then you are pure vibrational match with your true self. So then you reflect that, and that's what you transmit out to the movie screen. So that's what you will also see in others. And so that's really, really beautiful. And that's why it's so powerful, the awakening and the ascension journey, the self-realization part of it,
Yeah.
I mean, when you change yourself, you change your frequency, then the entire world shifts. And then that was something we couldn't wrap our heads around before. We didn't have direct access to, or it was kept from us, whatever, it was like, it was by divine decree and purpose. But now being on the journey and you're seeing it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, you just really appreciative and acknowledging and allowing more of that to come in. You know what I mean? It's like really, truly from our hearts. It's like, thank you for allowing me to be of service. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Peter, can you talk about your own awakening process one more time for everyone who's, like myself, or, there's people ahead of me up the mountain, behind me down the mountain, anything you want to add about, because this is why I'm so grateful to you, my friend, and so appreciative of your commitment to spirit and the path that you've chosen to walk in this lifetime. Can you tell people, a little bit, who are finding you today for the first time, how that has unfolded for you?
Absolutely. I kind of want to come in with a side note, as I hope is helpful here, is that as you do awaken to more and more aspects of yourself on your awakening journey, you will start to remember more and more, and you will see more and more, like what Gabriel was sharing earlier, that empowering part, that we might not see when we're in the 3D, 4D expression, embodiment, and identifying with that. So what I'm saying is that, it becomes more and more colorful. So the more and more details becomes available as we continuously awaken more and more aspects of ourselves, because we're now seeing how it was all playing out perfectly, and things we missed, we didn't have any clue that was actually important, along the way. So going back, my whole life's been an awakening journey, absolutely. And I think this is important to kind of share too, that we all chose our fair share of complications or dense energies, or fighting upstream.
Sure. Pain and fear, we call it. Yes.
Well, certain things that we then had to heal later on, you know what I mean? But it helps us with activating those sacred powers within ourselves, and finding forgiveness, and coming into the creator template, and recognizing that it all happened for a purpose, even though it was very traumatic at the time. And like you mentioned earlier too, in my 20s, I had a near-death experience where I was in a car accident in a van, and I flew out to 70 miles an hour. Someone flew out the windshield, and I didn't have my seatbelt on. So I landed on the road and cracked my head open. Part of my skull came off. A funny part is that my driving instructor, for years earlier, he was actually right down the road with a student, and he was the one calling it in. And it was right next to a church, a cemetery, not right next to it, but like a mile maybe a couple of miles from my parents' house where I was living at the time. And I went out of body on the scene, which I visited later on in past life regression, because I only remember certain parts. I could see that silver lining up to my light body who was leaving my body, and the paramedics came really fast and took me to one hospital, took me to another hospital, and I was in a coma for 10 days.
Wow.
And I woke up, with the human consciousness, meaning that I was kind of like resetting back to that and reasoning events and experiences through that filter, but I was very happy waking up. I mean, at the first hospital, the second hospital, I was first one, then it was the special hospital who was working with plastic surgery and brain injury and all that stuff. Then they took me back to the first hospital, and that's actually where I fully woke up. But I had moments I was waking up at the second hospital. I had a elevator experience where two angels or two guides were taking me up in the elevator. I was on a gurney on one of those rolling carts, and we went to the top floor, and it opened up, and it was, it was like kind of heaven and light, but they didn't push me out. It happened so fast that we went down again. So I didn't really pay too much attention to that at the time. I thought, it must have been in the hospital that happened. It was not till later I realized the depth of that near-death experience, that many NEDs, near-death experiences, have that experience with the elevator experience. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I had. And that helped me connect the dots, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That was actually it was not right away. It was probably a decade after that I really connected with that aspect.
Wow.
But then when I woke up in the other hospital, the one I was recovering in, I was probably in there for a month, I think, or maybe longer. I woke up and I was really happy still. And when I woke up from the drugs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So actually before I was there for a month, so right away when I got back and I got out of coma and that happened, I was in that energy of spirit. And I was supposed to run like 16 Ks like the weekend after, and my mind and my energy was like, oh, I can do that. But then I realized my body and look myself in the mirror, all that stuff. I was like, oh, I guess not. You know what I mean? But the energy, because I came straight from the other side, was just so strong, so there was a lot of reconnecting and kind of like getting new instructions and a new mission, a new purpose was being activated in my etheric and strands of DNA and frequencies and so forth. So it was a redirection, and not long after that, I think within 3 or 4 years after that, I moved to the States. It was supposed to just be 6 months, vacationing. But then I ended up, I liked it. And obviously now looking back, it's like there was no accident. I went to the City of Angels and the West Coast and Gabriel, all that stuff is like, and being in the US doing this is like, this is really the Mecca for a lot of things. For a lot of things.
Sure. No argument. Yeah.
Being, hands-on, being a groundkeeper, gatekeeper, it's really important. And I had to prepare myself for that. So I had to spend some time here. So I did. I went through the corporate world, did that, the marriage, wonderful child, a divorce, all, the human things, the different levels of detachments and so forth, the experiencing all that, the legal system, learning to navigate all that, and the shocking of that, but kind of like being undercover and seeing it from the inside. And I also spent 15, 20 years in the movie business, whereas I was a pastry chef first, and then I became a sound engineer. So first seeing how it worked, and also being around energies and personalities, some real, some not, you know what I mean? It's a big influencer, on the collective. So there's, you're seeing it's like undercover, like seeing what's going on, but also learning a lot from it, you know what I mean? And having that insight really helped me then also understand how things function, you know what I mean? So then also changing the stories, being a part of that, not just the exchange, but that evolution, that ascending part of humanity as well. Seeing the world shift, changing, by knowing all the details, so to speak. It's like to fully understand and not leaving anyone behind, let's say, and transform it all. It's important to have an inside view, I feel, so that was that part of my awakening journey in its own right, and towards the end of that, I went part-time. And of course, when I got divorced as well, it was also part of my spiritual awakening, you know.
Sure.
I just had to go in a different direction. I had to separate myself. And that spoke through, you know, also through my work life too, is that, you know, I worked less, I did part-time, because then I was starting doing this more and more.
Yeah.
And I was very curious, you know, and I was channeling, you know, so much. So it was like integrating, navigating that, getting used to receiving all this information that I wasn't consciously aware of before, and then clearing my vessel along the way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Identifying things that, medications, things that was not serving me any longer. I was on ADD medication for a while because of the accident. Because at certain cases, like I saw a neurologist, it's like, oh, you should get some ADD because of memory loss and this and that, and then, or not remembering things. But it was really because I was activating, not aware of that. So even having that experience for 8 years, being on ADD medication, you know, while I was working in the movie business as well, helped me. It did assist me in staying focused, but it also assisted me reaching a point where it's like, I recognize this is not good for me any longer, because this is a prescription. And there's a medical system kind of having a hold on me. So I took myself off it, and over a 6 months to a year period, brought the doses down so that I went, you know, fully without it. And that's been at least 8-9 years now. And so, but that also gave me insight to how that would be like to live like that, which 200 million people, I think, just in the US are doing. Something like hundreds of millions of people at least, you know, and in one way, shape, or form, all these prescriptions drugs, you know. I did it with what was it called, cyanide for cholesterol back in the days too. Is that the doctor, it's borderline, but it's always been borderline. So I was taking it, I really had a bad reaction to it. I didn't like it, so I got myself off it, and I started doing something else more holistic, and that just dropped it. And the doctor's like, oh my God, that's working, but I wasn't taking it. I didn't tell him. And then it just stopped. And that's kind of like, I had to go through those experiences to recognize it, and then it's like taking the power back and saying, no, that's not true for me any longer, you know. And that's also for alcohol. I don't drink anymore. I have no adjustment to it, so I did for many years. I enjoyed wine, I enjoyed, you know, different things, you know, beer. But now it's just like, my vibration and my frequency is much more important to me. Again, there's no judgment towards anyone doing it. It really, like, you know, and organic, you know, buying organic, eating organic. I still eat some meat. I still eat fish, you know. But I also try to keep that at a minimum. Water drinking, you know what I mean? So it's a conscious awareness that our choices affect everything we do. You know, what we expose ourselves to. Being a part of a gym, I was a part of a gym for probably 20 years. I haven't been a part of it for who knows how long, at least 10 years now. And there was other reasons for that. There was the TV screens, there was the machines in themselves working out on a technical, like you know what I mean? It was not organic. So everything shifted to hiking in nature and, you know, doing Kundalini yoga and doing things that's actually connecting me deeper inside. So it's not a program.
Sure. Very good.
And not being around that energy as well. And hopefully nobody take this the wrong way. If you're doing a gym, it's not all bad because it makes us exercise, but it's like when we reach a point where we can feel like, you know, I outgrew that, then acting up on it, you know, is really helpful and beneficial, you know. And it's kind of like we come back to also, we create our own religion, we create our own universe. So what do you want on your canvas? You know what I mean? Like that beautiful picture you have behind you is like the clouds, is like it's picturesque, you know, it's beautiful. The teepees, you know, there's the spiritual, there's the earth, there's the elements, there's the sun. It's like, then that becomes much more important, getting out there.
Yes. Yes. It's beautiful, my friend. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I mean, you know, it's, you know, it gives you a great voice of authority, Peter, you know, and I trust that it helps, you know, me be more understood, you know, when there's nothing that people can go through at this point that you and I can say, I know nothing about that. You know, it's like we've already, you know, paid the dues, paid the price, taken the journey, you know, got the T-shirt, as they say, and you know, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and now it's like, you know, what else can you show me, as Bob Dylan says in one of his songs. You know, we're at that moment, you know, as you've said, and Archangel Gabriel and all of the teachers that I study and follow, and you know, etc. You know, this really is a pivotal moment, and we're, you know, poised for great things if we will allow ourselves to, you know, listen to, trust, and follow our own loving inner guidance, and treat others the way we want to be treated, and know that love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that this truly is our time to take our power back and be a source of inspiration and hope for the planet. It's incredibly exciting, isn't it?
It is, and also coming back to, you know, we've been through it. We got the T-shirt. That also gives us that point of view and that patience with others. You know, like somebody who's going through what we went through before, we can guide them, but they have to go through it themselves. So we can hold space.
Yes.
Send them love.
Yes.
And, you know, being that solid presence in their life when they allow themselves to be connected to it, because they will go in and out, you know, going through that process. We know that because we went through it. So
yes,
allowing that and respecting that and knowing that that's a necessary step for the soul's evolution, that self-mastery, yes. That we have yes. to kind of, we have to fight it. We have to surrender to it. We have to accept it. We have to allow it. We have to go through all those levels, you know what I mean? To reconnect with the higher aspects and allow that to become a part of our, you know, ourself again, because it is our true self. Actually, it was the, you know, artificial self, if you want, or the distorted self that we experienced for a long time on purpose, you know, for a reason.
Yes, that's a great point. That's a great point. None of this is by accident. One quote from Lazarus, my teacher, he said, it was never meant to be this painful. They said about reality. It was never meant to be this difficult. And, you know, I'm a big fan also of Patricia Cota-Robles, and she's having her annual Congress on Illumination on Saturday for the next 5 days. And that will be the very last time, according to her guides, the 38th and final World Congress. Yeah, so we're in an auspicious moment with all of this. You know, well,
that kind of ties into, you know, that curriculum. You know, there's enough information in the collective field now, so then some teachers will retire, and then that's not the right word maybe, but it's like they will move on to something different. You know what I mean?
Yes. They won't need to be
somebody else to then step up, you know what I mean? Because there's these different levels, you know what I mean? So, yes. And then become a student again, and then step into a new vibration, a new dimension, new frequency, you know?
Yeah. As I say, I'm seeing young women, especially. I'm sure there are men out there as well, but there are some blazing, bright, brilliant young ladies out there who, you know, could be my teacher tomorrow. They are coming with such wisdom and such clarity. And so if you haven't discovered these ones yet, you have something to look forward to, because they are.
I see them, you know, I see all of them. And I don't want to just say women, but it's like, yes, there's a majority of women, because there's the more of the heart center, you know, and more open emotionally for shift and changes, more used to that kind of navigation, you know what I mean? Where the male aspects are much more rigid, you know, in that sense. So they adaptable to it. Not everybody, but a big group. What I see is that, you know, this is with everybody. We see where they at. There's no judgment, you know what I mean? Everything is, they are all on their individual, we are all on their individual journey, clearing what needs to be cleared. And again, walking the talk, but it's like faking to make it, you know, is not really working as much anymore, because it's really the vibrations and the frequency is speaking louder. So the consciousness, there's that conscious shift. So if we're playing small and we're playing it safe and we're playing it in the old container, then we're still going to face those kinds of obstacles. I still see that with people. So it will bring up diversities within. It will bring in some tug and wars within, where there's opposing forces that kind of like not agreeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a very important part to reconcile, you know. So I think that's really beautiful to watch as well. And of course, you know, when we see somebody who's self-realized, which is, there's many more out there now, that is just so endearing, you know. It's so beautiful. It's just like, whew, it's like you see God, you know. And there's just respect. It's just a recognition and I mean, I really I met several of those lately, and it is like a really you know, you just know.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so inspiring.
You also know the one who's trying to get there and then might be hiding behind a facade, you know, of materialism, you know, or whatever, you know, social media, so forth, you know. But that's okay too. They're on the path. So it's important that we keep space for that. You know what I mean? We keep ourselves open to experience that other version of themselves, because we know this is just a process. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's well said. You know, to be non-judgmental and accepting and tolerant and holding the space, you know, for people to find themselves. But at the same time, you know, the paradox is to be as authentic, you know, to the truth as we understand it, and speak it as clearly as we can with love and respect. You know, I did, Oren has a peace meditation called the Spirit of Peace. And I did that last Thursday and then did it again on Sunday. And I know it's had a huge difference just in my little bubble of reality, as well as the world. There was some, you know, very violent riots in the UK recently because of attack against children. God love us. And now there are big peace protests come out against the violent riots. And, you know, that's beautiful to see as well. So things are changing and twirling and swirling very quickly at the moment, you know.
Well, that's a big part of also why there is all this unrest in the world. It's like what we just mentioned, you know, it's like when there's those opposing forces within the individual, then there's a little bit of a battle for a while.
Sure.
Absolutely. Allow consciousness, to allow that multidimensional frequencies to come in, the love, the heart to open up, you know, the higher guidance coming in and then actually following it. You know what I mean? That leads to parades. It leads to, you know, compassion. It leads to people coming together as communities, so forth. And also, like you and I are doing, and many others are doing, is that the best way to be of assistance is to be that open, be that vibration, be that frequency, to the best of our abilities. You know what I mean? Of course, we have ups and downs too. We can be triggered by this and that, come, you know, in like a curveball, you know. But we get ourselves, for the most part, back on track really fast. You know what I mean? And we learn something from that each time. Or we see something that we didn't know existed, or we thought was gone. You know, so it's always benefiting us in some shape or way. So communicating that and sharing that through our voice, through our frequency, through our intentions, and how we're showing up. That is really all we have to do. That's the biggest contribution to being a service, in my opinion, you know.
I agree. No, that's beautifully said, Peter. I love that.
And like you do too, you do music more now. I mean, not more, but you're doing more music. I feel like that's the creative, another venue that's just becoming stronger. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I love channeling. I love metaphysics. I love the search for the truth. And I love what I put on Awakened Spirits recently is consciousness, creativity, and community, you know, and those are the three focuses that really lift me up. And yes, I mean, this is for someone to offer to record an album of my own music, you know, is a dream come true. And I'm so grateful for that. And as you're saying, my friend, you know, the world will be as good as we allow it to be. And as we are loving ourselves and healing our struggles, you know, as we're all doing, it's exciting and amazing how quickly things can change for the better. Because, of course, you know, with 8 billion people on the planet and a loving Father, Mother, God, who wants all of us to have a good time, there's every opportunity for anyone who is willing to stop arguing with the system to be moved to the front of the line and be an example. So it's very exciting.
I love that. And kind of like with the music too, just important to notice, I think, is that, the way you show up now, your consciousness evolved, you cleared a lot of things, physically, metaphysically, karmic, all of that, you know what I mean? So now that's being channeled through your music as well. So then you're attracting opportunities too that wasn't available before, like the recording, all that stuff is like, it's the right time. So that's just, it's kind of like that divine in the actions, and support, that just shows up, and connections is because you are again, ready to share in a new way, new codes, new frequencies, not just through your voice, but, talking, but through singing and through playing, because your energy is just magnetized, and it's just activated, is really strong. Like we talked about earlier, that I don't want to say childish, but it's that life force energy is just so brilliant, so crisp,
Well, thank you, Peter. My job description is I'm God's holy fool, so it's all about having a good time at the end of the day, if that's humanly possible.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's all it's about, and that's really beautiful to watch, and a lot of people are going to go through that, reinventing themselves. They're not going to recognize who they were before, what they worried about before, what they were so focused on, so identified with before.
Yes.
At that point, it doesn't matter, because it's like, it's not true any longer.
Yes. I mean, brother, the key to me, the secret of secrets is if we can understand that God means everything in our life for good, no matter how it shows up or what it feels like, that's the path to peace, isn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
That's the deep end of the pool.
Well, so what else have you coming up then? You're happy where you're staying, and how's that going?
Yes, it's all right. It's been up and down, honestly, as you would know as well as anyone. But again, it's like when things have been really challenging for me, it's just motivated me to keep clearing and keep clearing and keep clearing. And then suddenly, it's resolved. Oh, thank you. And I don't have to fight with the outer world or have arguments or debates with people any longer. So yeah, that's my new rhythm with all of that is, I'm probably doing, 2 or 3 more hours of guided meditations every day, with different things. And as I say, I just feel like this is the shortest, way to get to where I want to go, and for the outer world to be a reflection of what I know is possible in my heart, and to just really do it from the inside out. And that's it. That's where the work is.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's just the thing too, is like your vibration, your consciousness, you can be anywhere. It's not so much the surroundings, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That kind of peace and stillness, and also trusting and looking back upon that everything always worked out. All the worries we had about something, it worked out. So
absolutely.
That's reassuring, it's like, if we worry too much about it, then, we can take that energy back and then use it somewhere else, that's when we reach that level of embodiment, where we not focus so much on next week or tomorrow, we focus on right now.
Yes. Well said. Beautiful. Well, my friend, I think we have reached the top of the mountain one more time. If that feels comfortable for you, is there any last thoughts? Or maybe you'll leave us with a prayer from
Is there any
Gabriel,
questions you want to tune into, or just whatever comes through?
I honestly, you've ticked every box that I had coming into the conversation here today, as usual. Whether we talked about it or not, it all got touched on. So I'm very grateful for you and your time once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I can just tune in for a second here. The main, I'm already hearing it, is try to relax, because it's an intense time we're going through, and we can look at that from many perspectives, but from the 888 today specifically, and it's still going to be open for several days, and it has been open for several days. Try to just be present. Try not to overthink it. Try not to chase anything, and try not to overcomplicate things by keeping yourself too busy. So try to keep things simple. So not watching too much of the news or the media or movies, so forth, unless it's, you can watch a little bit of movie, maybe if it's high vibrational, or not at all. Read a book, get into nature, get into bed, or have fun with your family or friends, or your pets. Go to the ocean, go into nature, do things like that, because that's really where the support is going to be found. It's not going to be found in all the other distractions. So a relaxed relationship to that is key, especially doing big breakthroughs like this one. And as we kind of addressed earlier, is that all levels are going through a reset right now, regardless of where you're at. So you outgrew one version, and we're stepping into the next, and we are still waiting for the information. And depending on where we are in our journey, is going to feel either more or less comfortable not knowing. So if you don't feel comfortable, or you feel triggered by the uncertainty, anxiety, and so forth, try not to focus so much on what's to come, but focus on what you have right now, acknowledging it, allowing it, appreciating it, and then just being fully present, kind of like ground yourself, because the energy is just so galactic right now. So it's so easy just to automatically go up, even if we're not aware of doing it, that we're ungrounded, and then we're floating around, and it can feel nauseating if we're not used to it. So yes, important to kind of ground and connect with something that's real. You know what I mean? Like nature, something that's organic. So that's the message and the guidance coming through here right now. Don't overthink it. Don't make it too complicated. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And you are loved, and your team is getting closer and closer, and they are communicating to you through numbers, to other people at times, the angels, the ascended masters and the spirit guides. And even listening to this today, I hope there's messages coming through, or they've been received that way, knowing that whoever's listening to it, this is specifically for you. Genuinely.
Beautiful. That's great, Peter. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. I'm grateful to you. Thank you, brother. Love you.
I love you too. Thank you. This was fun, and I look forward to next time. Hopefully it won't take as long as next time, but it was really felt like it was a month ago. I was like, I looked through my calendar. I was like, oh my God, that was back in March. It did not feel that long ago.
Bless you. Well, I'll make that. I'll take that on board, and we'll get together again. Absolutely, a pleasure. It's always a joy. Have a wonderful 888, and we'll talk to you again soon. God bless you.
I look forward to it. God bless you too. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, my friend. Thank you. Peace.